Wagner, and I'm Andrea Dobines Wagner, and I serve as the Recruitment and Inclusion Specialist for Activate Global. I'm just one member of the recruitment team led by the fabulous Carla, who spoke earlier, and Kerrigan. And so now I'd like for our panelists to introduce themselves.
Does it matter who goes first? Kezi, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kezi Chen. I'm part of Activate Berkeley 2021. So I'm finishing off my first year of Activate Fellowship. I co-founded the company Flow Materials with Pete Christensen, who's the inventor of the technology we're commercializing. We are creating a portfolio of infinitely recyclable plastics to enable designers and manufacturers for end-of-life considerations for these plastics. We're looking at designing a circular supply chain, a circular business model, and most of all, designing chemistry that can be disassembled at end of life.
Thank you, Kezi.
I'm happy to go next. My name is Ashley Beckwith. I am a new fellow, just started in June actually, and very excited to be part of the Activate program. I'm founder of Foray Bioscience, and we are working on leveraging plant cell culture to produce wood-derived products and materials without cutting down any trees, so we can reduce the burden of growing demands on our forest resources.
And I'm Mariam Awara. I am calling in from Toronto, Canada. I'm co-founder of Pulsenics, where we're developing solutions to accelerate the electrification of our industries so we can move away from fossil fuel reliance. I am actually part of the Activate Anywhere 2022 cohort. This is the first cohort of the first year for Activate Anywhere. And very happy to be here. Thank you, Andrea and Carla, for organizing.
Thank you so very much. So our first question, and panelists, I would like to say that you all do not have to answer. And for the audience, I will not do all the talking. I promise I'll give you a chance toward the end of this hour to ask any questions that you may have. So question one is, what inspired you to enter the historically male-dominant arena of STEM?
Andrea, do you want to call on us or should we just go?
Just feel free to go ahead.
So I can start. I actually didn't even realize it was male-dominated. And when I was in engineering school, half of my classes were women. So I never realized it was really male-dominated until I entered industry. But the reason that it really fascinated me to go into engineering was I watched a documentary about an inventor that was commercializing a new way that would improve the conversion of sunlight to electricity for solar panels. And that just captivated me. I was always interested in maglev trains and electric vehicles and such. So electrical engineering just naturally fit my tendencies, things that I was interested in.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. I think I was really privileged to grow up in an environment where my parents were very supportive of my career choices, whatever those may have been. Both my parents were actually engineers, and so I know my mom in growing up. Sorry, I got an echo there. I know she faced a lot of challenges from her family when she chose to become an engineer. Is a bit unorthodox for her, and so I think she made a significant effort in our lives to encourage us to pursue, science and technology, and kind of reinforce the fact that they would support us in whatever our journeys may be. And so I was really drawn to engineering because the capacity to not only identify problems, but be able to create solutions for them. And it was a bit of a shock initially when I took my first engineering focused classes, and those classes were predominantly male, but I think I cared enough about the problems, and unfortunately I had great mentors to help me overcome any insecurities that came along with that situation.
Thank you. Want to chime in? Or
I think I share a little bit of what each of you guys had just said. I did have a lot of role models in my life that showed me that women can go into science and engineering. My sister, she was 11 years older than me, and she, by the time I was in college, she had already started her own company in the biotech space, and watching her do it, for like 10 years as I was going through my undergrad and grad school, it just showed me that I could potentially also do it. So that influence was very, very, just a very impactful thing in my life. But also in undergrad, I remember, I went to MIT for undergrad, and there is a 45% women and 55% male students for undergrad population. And in those years when I was like 18 to 22, very formative years, it was shown to me that women can do basically, anything that men can do. Like that equality I've never seen again in my life, actually, after graduating from MIT. So I think it was a very special place, and it made me want to make the world more like that. Have more people of diverse and different backgrounds. And I think the division, like that gender division, really helped the school be the school that it is. And there was I don't think diversity and gender was at all like going against merit. So I think you can have both. And I think I've been looking for environments where I could have that again, be surrounded by really, really smart, really driven, diverse groups of people.
Absolutely. Well, all three of you seem to have gotten a head start on question 2, which simply asks, were you inspired or mentored by any women who founded science-based startups? If so, who were they?
Cassie, it seems like you maybe have the most relevant experience here.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that question, and I know my sister is like the direct one in my life, but I was actually very inspired by an Activate Leadership Council a woman. Her name is Danielle Applestone, and she was the founder of Bantam Tools, which is like a desktop CNC machine company. And basically, for the work that we had to do in the lab, I had to get a Bantam tool and I had to start using it. And then I learned about her and her story about how she was a single mom during her PhD. She started later another company that basically works to bring women into manufacturing jobs. And I reached out to her and talked to her, and I was just so inspired by her story. And it was like she was like a person that I could see myself wanting to be in the future. And there weren't that many people in my life that I could say like, wow, like I could actually see myself walking in your steps and doing the things you're doing and have done. And so being so inspired. And she's actually on the leadership council. So like she is so accessible to us as Activate fellows. So I would say she's like someone that I really look up to right now in my life.
Love that. We're not going to tell your sister, I promise. Anyone else would like to take a stab at that question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can just say something quickly. When I was in my undergrad, I chose to engage in undergraduate research through this program at my university, and ended up in a PI's lab, and who was also a woman, and she was an incredibly independent person, and just kind of did not confine herself to sort of the traditional rules of academia, and just was fully herself all the time. And she was also the founder of a company. And so it was inspiring to see someone be successful and also just be fully themselves and fully satisfied. And so I think that was inspiring for me.
Okay.
I also had just one female professor in the entirety of my university career. And this professor would every year organize a trip where she would take 20 women in engineering to the Grace Hopper Conference. So that was the largest gathering of women in computer that there is. That was the largest conference for that. So there was this one talk that really resonated with me, and it was a female entrepreneur who was building an artificial intelligence company, and she was talking about why it was so important to have diversity in technology. So what really stuck with me is that she was telling us how the technology that we build actually inherits our biases. And so if you have more diverse people building AI or technology, then you are actually having a more representative solution for society. So that to me really shed the light on why it's actually so important to have diversity in tech.
Love that. My next question is, what challenges related to your gender identity have you been faced with, if any? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I guess, to be frank, yeah, I've been told by many people in different stages of my career that, I only got this opportunity because I'm a woman and they needed it to fill quota. And I've also been spoken to pretty condescendingly by men who are investors, who are collaborators, who are potential customers. So these are definitely things you face in the startup world. And I am still learning how to overcome them. I have overcome some of the ones in earlier stages of my life just by, kind of proving them wrong, like, just going and doing the thing that people say you can't do, and then just continue and moving forward. But in the startup world, I'm still learning, and I'm getting a lot of advice from other people who have come before me.
Love that. Well, I'm sure you're going to continue to prove them wrong.
So I have actually been told by a mentor who was supposed to be helping me prepare for a pitch event to articulate in detail how I would replace my role with someone who could sell to an industry that is an old boys club. And so that was incredibly hurtful, because essentially he was telling me to replace myself once we raise more money because I am a woman who cannot play along with the industry's old boys club, instead of actually understanding that whatever wins that we've gotten to date in terms of business development was a contribution from my founding team and myself. So that was one of many events where I can confidently say it was actually because of my gender that I got such a comment.
I think in my experience, I have a couple of instances where I've experienced similar things as Kezia and Mariam, but in general, I think I've been pretty fortunate, and I've had a lot of great mentors to advise me and advocate for me, and it's shown me over the years the real value of having those champions that can help further your cause. And like, if opportunities come along that maybe I have access to because I'm a woman, I'm going to leverage those. And I'm going to use those to go further and to do better. And so like make the most of your opportunities that you're given. And like I, applaud Kezi and Mariam for also being able to overcome these really challenging situations. And it's difficult. But when these opportunities exist and you can leverage them, do so.
Love that. So for the next thing, instead of question, I just need you to finish these sentences. In 20 years, I hope that women blank. I'll start. In 20 years, I hope that women don't have to continue fighting for a rightful seat at the table and are actually paid what they deserve.
Yeah, I hope.
I echo you.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I was gonna say I hope in 20 years, female entrepreneur, female engineer is just an entrepreneur and an engineer.
Yes. Okay. The next question, the next sentence says, since becoming an Activate Fellow, I blank.
Since becoming an Activate Fellow, I've gained an enormous support network and people who I can look up to as role models to help me navigate the world of science entrepreneurship.
Thank you. We may be calling on you for that later. Ashley or Miriam?
Yeah, I mean, I second that. And since becoming an Activate Fellow, I would say I've gained some of these champions and cheerleaders that can help support me when I'm facing difficult situations.
Yeah, very similar. I have found community, so I'm part of Activate Anywhere. I was just telling Carla that we're actually 50-50 split between women and men, and that was in a very long time. I hadn't been in a room where there was such a split.
Love that. Okay. The next question is, what is Activate doing to help you achieve your goals so far? And what more could we do better to support women entrepreneurs and women fellows?
Well, I really think just, access to wisdom and resources is kind of second to none. So one, we get to learn from the experience of other founders who, are in a similar situation, are still very close to our situations and can understand the challenges we're going through in the moment, but also people that have moved beyond even the next stage and can help provide more extended guidance and can see the bigger picture and help us inform our trajectory. So it's a lot of this like communal wisdom that I think is useful in framing your efforts at the beginning of company building, which can be pretty challenging and confusing at times.
Miriam?
Go ahead, Miriam.
Well, I was gonna echo what Ashley was saying, and I also want to say on top of that, Activate has been super generous with introductions to industry leaders, to mentors, and access to network is so important, especially when you don't have a lot of people that look like you in the rooms that you're trying to enter. So that's actually, incredibly powerful to have that sort of access.
Yeah, and to follow up, I mean, like 2 of our managing directors are women. So and so in each of the different locations, for example, Berkeley, Boston, New York, and anywhere, there's a managing director that really follows you for 2 years of the program, and they really, provide a lot of input and insight into like the journey, basically. And currently at Berkeley, we have Jill Fuse as our managing director, and she had started her own company and rode the entire wave. So she has so much like wisdom to give back, and we can have weekly meetings. Amy, who is the managing director of Boston, is also fantastic, and she has done multiple startups in the past. So like just having those people in your corner and being able to reach them anytime you want, talk about anything, and especially things that might, maybe only someone who is a woman can really understand. Having someone to talk to is just really, really a gift, I think.
I would also add just having someone to talk to that is invested in your success, but not necessarily invested in your company, is incredibly helpful, because sometimes you just need a sort of an unbiased opinion. You need someone you can be fully honest to about the challenges you're going through, things you might not be comfortable, or maybe you shouldn't talk with your investors about. Not that I have any of those things, but I'm just saying, like, it's useful to have someone there that can be a sounding board, and you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing at the wrong moment.
Exactly. Well, since you began your entrepreneurial journey, what has been your biggest obstacle to date? Since you began your entrepreneurial journey, what has been your biggest obstacle to date? And we'll start with Kezi.
Oh,
and if you had any, that's great too.
There's been like so work-life balance is something that people talk about a lot, and it's something that is pretty challenging to achieve. Honestly, like, I think to be a woman, there are different priorities in life. There are different priorities for work, and if you're in a personal relationship and you're co-founding a company, you're basically in like two intimate relationships with two partners that you have to understand how to communicate with. You have to understand how to, just set goals and achieve those goals. So there's definitely sacrifices that occur along the way, and priorities. So I think work-life balance has been one for me. For example, when I finished my PhD last year, I moved out to the Bay Area so that I could work in person with my co-founder in the lab. And that was, a personal sacrifice for me because my life was set up in Boston. And it's just a decision I wanted to make at the time. It's not necessarily an obstacle, but a lot of this kind of things will come up. And at that moment in time, you'll have to decide what is the priority at this moment, and how you want to go forth with that decision. So I think, I do think that women have to face a lot of these forks in the road sometimes. And so it doesn't make it easier, but it's doable. So.
Thank you. Ashley or Miriam?
Mine is managing people complexity. So that could be either people's reactions to me being in the room, or being able to step up to actually managing people's expectations, people's roles, hiring, building out an actual diverse team on the team. That's actually a huge challenge for us as well.
I guess like the biggest obstacle so far, I mean, we're a pretty new company, but I would say maybe my biggest personal obstacle is just myself. I can be pretty hard on myself at times. And so I need to learn to manage expectations of this journey, and be kind to myself in the process, even when there's, it feels like there's a lot at stake. And so I think that's a growing process for me. And I think something that I've probably been working on for most of my life, but continuing to work on it because some of those personal struggles can be even more acute in this founder's seat.
Understand that. So we're going to shift gears for a second and dig into the founders a little bit more personally. So tell me, what is one thing you wish you could tell your younger self?
Start earlier. Just start earlier with exploring things that are outside of your field of vision, field of knowledge, because there's so much more out there than you think there is, and so much more out there than you could fit into boxes that are easily defined. So just start earlier with exploring and fail earlier, do things earlier, just generally.
I would say don't be scared to ask for help. I think when I was younger, I was nervous to not know things, but then as you get older and older, it becomes even harder to do that. So just like ask for help when you need help and find the right people to surround yourself that can really support you through your journey.
I guess I would say that, like incremental progress adds up over time. Time passes and you'll be amazed by, just doing a little bit each day, how much that accumulates to. And so not worrying about doing everything all at once.
Well, I needed the advice myself. And so we have some amazing questions coming in the chat that Kerrigan will graciously read to you all.
Alrighty, so the first one that I have, do you have any general advice for female entrepreneurs that you wish you had received or learned earlier in your path/career?
I received this advice actually right after graduating from university, but I was told, even if you don't get to work on your own company, always choose opportunities in your career where you're going to continuously be learning, and be very wary about comparing the what you reap in terms of quantitative measures. And so that was something where essentially the whole idea is you always want to be in a place where you're being mentored, you're actually going to learn a lot, and the money will follow if that's something that you're looking to do. But that to me actually helped. Don't know if it will be helpful.
Yeah, one advice that I got from a female founder was to use empathy and use emotions as data points that drive your attention. I just found that to be really a really great set of advice in a very a rational science world. We're constantly thinking about data metrics and but also just think about your emotions and use those to drive your decision making sometimes, and use those to drive your attention for making certain decisions has been really helpful.
Those are both great pieces of advice. And I don't know that I have any great advice, except maybe along something that Kezi said earlier. I think sometimes, especially if you're early on as a woman in the STEM fields, it can be difficult to ask questions or ask for help because you don't want to show weakness, because you don't want someone to doubt your abilities, because you're and attribute that to your being a woman or woman identifying. And so I say just ask. It'll speed the process along so much. I'm not very good at asking for help. I'm getting better at it. And it takes so much more time. I know I can find the answers to things. It takes so much more time to like dig around, read a bunch of information and source that, rather than just, reaching out, asking someone who knows. So leverage your contacts, leverage your networks, and that really expedites things, which is important when you're always running out of time.
Thank you guys so much. And I'm just going to ask one more question and then we'll get back into the panel questions. Cynthia Moore asked, do any of the presenters have a disability they are willing to discuss? If so, how did your disability enhance or make the process of fellowship challenging?
I don't really have anything to share. Sorry, Mariam.
I do have chronic pain. So this is something that in previous career opportunities, it has affected just my day-to-day. It's affected my university career as well. And in terms of fellowship, I mean, I'm a 2022 cohort, but there's a huge focus on personal health. And there's a huge focus on even opportunities for coaching that allow you to understand how to take care of yourself and still show up and apply yourself in your company. So that's something I'm also navigating through, but I don't have any learnings just yet.
Yeah, I don't have a disability per se, but I also have struggled with stress-induced symptoms, like physical symptoms, like pain. And what I've been seeing a therapist for years to kind of really control the stress level, control the anxiety level if they do come, and it has been very, very helpful. And I agree, Activate really supports mental health and physical health of the founders. In the beginning of the fellowship, we have this like T=0 meeting where the whole meeting is not about the startup, but really about who you are as a person, what you need to show up as the best person that you can be. And yeah, and like you said, Mariam, the coaching has been, there's a network of coaches that we can tap into, and previous fellows have used, and those are incredibly helpful in navigating, stressful challenges in the startup and in your personal life. So.
And well, Cynthia, I would like to add, while I am not a fellow, the entire organization and now these lovely, fearless founders are going to know that I identify as disabled. I'm actually legally blind. So if you see me leaning toward the screen, it's because I am trying to read this small font. And Activate had absolutely no issue with hiring me, not just hiring me, but empowering me. And I know how difficult it can be to not want to be discriminated against or not know when to disclose, but Activate is committed to empowering the whole person, not because of an ability or lack thereof for that matter. So, like I said, we are committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, not just in our speech, but also in our actions. And I am proof, personal proof that that is to be so. And so back to a couple of more questions for these lovely ladies. So our next question is, if you were not a STEM legend in the making, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be off doing some pottery somewhere. I don't really know how to do pottery very well, but I imagine it's something that I could dedicate the rest of my life to. So that's where I'll be.
Sounds relaxing. Miriam?
I have always wanted to be a writer. So up until grade 11, I thought I was going to be a writer. I was going to go and study English literature. But I also felt like you can be a writer and be something else. And I also felt like I didn't have enough wisdom to share if I were to write, you know, in university or to study writing. And so that's why I'm not doing it at the moment.
I think, yeah, I'm also really interested in science writing, but more on the policy side. So I think either science policy or science education. So I think for me, one of my passion points is really mentoring and encouraging younger women to know that they can go into STEM and the opportunities are there, and really help them get through each of the steps, each of the stages that it requires to really get to where we are now. So before you ask, what can Activate do more in addition to what it already does so much, is, inspiring younger generations. That's how we build the pipeline, and encouraging them, and being the ones that tells them that they can do it, and showing them that they can do it.
Okay. Our next question is, and this was kind of touched on already, but what does work-life balance look like for you, or need to look like for you if you're like me, still figuring that out?
For me, it would be, there are times where I need to rest and there are times where I'm ready to go. And so it's the flexibility to be able to take my rest days, and essentially be able to still show up and apply myself at work.
Yeah, I guess similarly, allowing myself to rest when I need rest, and making sure that I am sort of maintaining healthy habits in the meantime. For me, I like to run or be outside, hiking, and so making sure that I get an adequate amount of time to help manage my stress in that way can enable me to be more effective when I'm present and working. So understanding that there's value in both, and taking care of myself and taking care of my business.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. It's really just taking care of mental, physical health so that you can show up the best person. Yeah.
Okay. And my final question before we move on to more audience questions is for you to, well, no, let me go with this one. What impact do you wish to have on your community, and why? Ashley, you look like you're thinking over there.
Yeah, just the cogs are turning. If someone else has an answer ready, they can go. I think for me, it's important that I feel like I am making life better and easier for other people in some way. And right now that that avenue I've chosen to facilitate that is through these environmental projects, preserving the environment, and making sure that it's around for all of us to enjoy in the future, and for our, the next generations to also continue to enjoy and thrive. And so I hope that, I can say that I've done some net good in the world. My aspirations aren't too high on that front, but
well, you're doing the necessary work.
Yeah, I think like being a minority female founder, co-founder, it's important to speak up when you need to, and it's important to be a teacher to people on your team and taking that role seriously. And like what I would love is, if we're hiring for someone, to see like someone that looks like you on the website and be like, I'm going to apply because I can see myself in this company, in this role. And yeah, I just hope that there are more of those going forward in entrepreneurship.
Andrew, I think we all went silent because it is a very tough question to answer. I do think, though, that just as humans, we all want for our lives to matter. So we all do want that positive impact. And it could be through different vehicles. So like Ashley said, I think what motivates me, at least in terms of what we're building, is the impact it would have. But also I do understand that every individual has specific life experiences that could be shared with a community. And so for me, going through university and in my career, I was looking everywhere and have been looking everywhere for, female mentors. Someone who's been there, done that, can share their experiences. So like Kezi said, teaching, being assertive, having, sharing experiences and either normalizing or, validating some of the experiences that female entrepreneurs can face. So I think I would love to one day have enough life experience to serve as a mentor for someone that is searching for that sort of mentorship.
Thank you so much. I realize these questions are not easy, but you all are geniuses and you've been handling them gracefully. Kerrigan, audience questions, take us away.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so next one is going to be from Ms. Duncan. How have you seen your company grow or change because of the resources from the Activate Fellowship that would be difficult to get anywhere else?
Kezi, I don't know if you want to lead this one since you've been in Activate the longest.
Yeah, there's so many resources. It's hard to so much of what we've done has been because of Activate that it's hard for me. Let me think for a second. But one obvious one, for example, is that we get 2 years of free lab space at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. That is, a lot of money that we're saving in wet lab space that we would otherwise have to raise money for or get a grant for. So that's amazing. But in addition to that, and also the stipend that we get, we also get advice on IP. We also get advice we have these legal office hours with lawyers that we can get advice from. We also get, I think 50 hours with a consultant on techno-economic analysis. And all of these resources combined have really pushed us further on both the tech development, which is, the physical lab space, as well as market development, on pricing, cost analysis, and how we need to, think about our business model going forward. So the resources, some of them are, tangible, but some of them are just like, is the network of people who connect you with investors, where you can raise, pre-seed or seed round. But yeah, Activate has been tremendously helpful in our growth in the past year. We just went from basically like lab scale, few grams of this new material to a full product very recently. So that was a huge milestone that I don't think we could have done without Activate support.
I think so far, we've only been part of the Activate Fellowship for a couple of months, but certainly having this like mentorship and someone who really is putting a lot of conscious effort to making sure that you are getting connected to people that can help you and further your mission is incredibly useful, because it's not every day that you have someone that's specifically looking out for you and trying to craft relationships that will specifically benefit your endeavor. So that is incredibly valuable, and we've already been able to connect with so many interesting and useful people, and so looking forward to continuing that. I will say, just as a little qualifier, not all the communities get 2 years of free lab space, so just FYI for everyone out there.
I also want to point out there's a Slack channel or a Slack workspace for Activate Fellows. And every morning I'll log on and I'll look at, if there are any news or anything like that. Every time I visit the Slack channel, I either learn something or there's a new opportunity that I could apply for, or I meet someone who knows someone who is incredibly helpful and useful for something we're going through. And the latest example of that is that I connected with someone through a post whose uncle is an exporting expert. And I hopped on a call with them for half an hour. These are two people I absolutely don't know, but they're, helpful through the Activate community. And essentially all of my exporting questions have been answered. So that's something otherwise I would have had to go through a whole slew of trying to get that sort of information, but it was right there on a Sunday morning, scrolling through. I found a resource and information that I didn't even know I was looking for.
Great, thank you for those answers. And I have one more. Have you or people you know experienced the compounded effect of gender and ethnicity or immigrant status on how your abilities are perceived? Any advice on navigating this?
I think this is a really good question. And I think maybe someone within Activate could answer it better. Honestly, it's a really good question, and maybe it's worth a follow-up from someone within Activate's community. But I'm an immigrant, so I actually came to the US when I was 9 years old. And I did not speak any English when I came. But I haven't seen like the impact of being an immigrant in entrepreneurship necessarily, but I'm sure it exists. So I'm a US citizen now, but if I wasn't a US citizen, I would probably be more hesitant to do what I'm doing now. And I'm not sure of the challenges that non-citizens have to face in doing startups. But I do feel very confident that people within Activate have answers to that question. Yeah.
Alrighty, those are all my questions. Andrea, if you want to take us out, please.
Yes. So the most lighthearted question you will probably have ever been asked is simple. If your life was a song title, what would it be and why?
I would say maybe like the Just Keep Swimming song from
I
Nemo.
mean,
That's
love
like
it.
my, like, just keep swimming, just keep going. Like it, yeah, that's how I feel almost every day.
Absolutely love it.
Can I steal that? Because I feel similarly. It's a tough question actually, Andrea.
Sorry, I've been known to do that. I was a teacher in my past life, so you have to forgive me. But seriously, though, I want to just right now give a Zoom round of applause to our 3 fearless female founders. Thank you so very much for offering your expertise and your journey to this place. And I just want to remind you that there is strength in vulnerability. And so to the people on this Zoom call, our applications are opening soon. I encourage you to visit activate.org/apply, as well as follow us on social media, Activate Fellows. We can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and our LinkedIn is just Activate Fellows. You will see the beautiful blue scripted A to learn more about Activate and to potentially become an Activate Fellow yourself. We thank you so very much. Carla has put this information in the chat. Again, thank you so very much to all of our panelists, the entire recruitment team, as well as our guest on today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And as always, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you all. Thank you, Andrea and Carla.
Thanks everyone for coming. Have a
thank
great rest of your day.
Bye.
Y'all did so good. Oh no, give me a